is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Sunday NBA Finals Game 2 edition of Live with Fast Eddie Fear here at FTNDaily.com. My name is Zach Graham, a.k.a. Kawhisenberg DFS, alongside my good buddy, the man on the marquee, wearing a red shirt, which I think might be the first time I've ever seen you wear red, Eddie. But like Tiger Woods on a Sunday, jumping into this Game 2 final slate with the Sunday red. How you doing?
I'm okay. Yeah, I just came off the court, putting in
Nice.
some time, getting my time in. And this was top of the laundry pile. So ran through the shower, back into the notation here. But
Nice.
yeah.
Well, the hair looks feathered and lethal. As we like to say, it looks good. Looks good from here. Down in Texas, a nice summer's day down here in Austin. Don't know how it is up there. And what, Dayton-ish area?
Dayton-ish, yeah. Only two things come out of Texas.
Oh, yeah?
And you don't look like a steer. I don't know. Full metal jacket.
Oh, God. You cut me deep. But we have some news here, Eddie. Andre Iguodala, champion of my board bet last game. And NBA champion, former Finals MVP, out tonight for the Warriors. So I guess the neck maybe not feeling great after playing his 12 minutes in game 1. Steve Kerr.
Yeah, I'm taking that as a moral victory on our bet, by the way. Because if you'd have said before game 1, hey, this guy will get hurt if he plays 12 minutes. Yeah. It's not like he got hit. I don't think there was any contact. He just played 12 minutes and can't play again 3 days later. Yeah, I would argue the correct decision was the one I made and not the one Steve Kerr made. Yeah. Like the whole goal, it's a tough situation. There's nothing to do that's right there. These were Steve Kerr's choices. Never play him. That feels a little bit disrespectful to him, which shouldn't matter because it's the NBA Finals, and I respect Iggy and his career and his mentorship and his veteranship. It doesn't matter trying to win the NBA Finals. It shouldn't matter, but whether or not it should, it is a force in the conversation. If he goes, I want to play, and he's got a Finals MVP, and he's got rings, and he wants to get out there, it is tough to say no. So your choices are don't play him. That's tough. Or this situation where you're forced to warm him up in the NBA Finals after against what I consider the best team in the league, having played not at all in 6 weeks and 4 games in the last 5 months or whatever the hell the number was. There was no good way to do this. So my understanding of everyone's like, yes, he would not have made it onto the court for me in game 1. To me, that didn't make the most sense. But in theory, if you want him to have any role, and if you want the possibility of him playing 20 minutes in game 4, I guess you start warming him up as much as possible. I thought if he was going to play, and I'm really surprised this didn't happen, he'd get 1 5 or 6 minute shift. That for me, like I thought the most likely scenario, he wouldn't play. The second most likely scenario was he would play 4 to 8 minutes one time. Just let him warm that up, give him a couple days. But anyhow, what happened is what happened. And as you alluded, he will not be showing up tonight. Also news that Robert Williams will be limited. And by limited, I mean playing his normal minutes.
The same minutes. Yeah.
It's my absolute favorite. It's just like, well, we're going to limit this guy to 25 minutes. It's like, well, considering you play him more than that 1 out of 18 games, basically going to use him as normal. So now our boy Gary Payton, whose elbow is apparently so jacked that they're just starting to let him take threes. Yeah. Like there's he can shoot a little, and now just a few days ago they started letting him take 3-pointers again. Which, all right.
I don't know if you heard Doris Burke was on with Zach Lowe, I believe Friday, the day after game 1. And she mentioned that she had discussions with Steve Kerr, and her impression was that he just might not be ready at all. And I think that that kind of leans into the fact that Steve Kerr said he expects to play Gary Payton tonight, but he did not fully commit to it. I do have Gary Payton in for 12 minutes right now. Yep. But I've had multiple people reach out to me today and suggest that maybe that means Moses Moody will get out there a little bit more. I have Moody for 6 minutes. And as I said in the Discord about an hour ago, I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers inverted if Gary Payton really isn't ready to go or he DNPs altogether. But I think it's like, I don't think Steve Kerr has a problem with just shrinking this rotation down to 7 guys plus a few minutes from Moody or Peyton or, any of those Bielitsa, Kuminga, guys who could come in and play 2 or 3 minutes.
Pool is a really interesting question here. Like, I have 16 pages of notes, so I don't know where to
let's start with Pool because we talked a lot about him.
I think we should start about game 1 a little bit, which went largely how I expected. Again, I didn't know who was going to take those 12 minutes, but as far as minutes usage, the defenses they allowed, everything was either sort of what we said would happen or was one of the options we alluded to. Like during the show, I mentioned, okay, they're either going to do what I thought was slightly more likely, which was really focus up on Tatum and Brown and allow the other 3 or 4 guys with an active role in that offense to beat them. And spoiler, that's basically exactly what happened. We did get a reasonable amount of shots out of those 2 guys. Tatum obviously put up the 17 shots, of which he made 3. And Brown, I think, went 10 of 23 from the field. That's still, those guys got up 40 shots. But those guys collectively shot, let's see, that'd be 13 out of 40 if I'm doing that in my head right. So about 33% from the field, and the rest of the team must have been at 65. Like, if you look at the shots and makes from, just I'll pull up the box, but Robert Williams, I do not believe, missed in the few shots. He shot 4 for 4. The other 2 starters were Al Horford, who shot 9 for 12, which is 75% from the field, and Marcus Smart, who shot 7 for 11, which is 64%, I think, from the field. Them's good shootings, and obviously Derek White off the bench, a bit of the same. So I could do an entire show on the various defensive alignments of the Golden State Warriors in this game. I am officially going of the opinion, and I like Steve Kerr. I like him as a human being. I like him as a fellow common sense liberal. I like him as a coach. I like him as him being comfortable and being effusively praising of all of his players. And I'm a big Steve Kerr fan. I think he's getting too fucking cute with some of this. Like, they rolled out the old 1-3-5, which is not something we see a lot these days, where they banged out the 1-3-5 pick and roll big targeting. They ran the box and 1 with Poole as the 1, which was really weird, with a box and 1 and like Poole shadowing Tatum, which again is something we talked about before game 1. I said, and this was, again, I was just sort of reading coaches' comments, that I don't think they want to deal with the bullshit with Poole and switches and getting caught up the whole time. I think they will help off him as opposed to switching off him more. They're just going to be like, fuck it, I don't care who you're on, Jordan Poole. Don't. And that is something you do. Like, I am a bad defender at this stage. I'm very Andre Iguodala at this point. Just like Andre Iguodala, I can't stay in front of someone who's fast. I just can't do it. So rather than try to get my old or Andre's old slow ass switching over to another guy and expending all that extra energy and potentially breaking down the offense, because you don't ever want to give up open looks. And open looks happen when the coverage gets fucked and one guy doesn't get picked up. You just go, screw it. Do the best you can. Get out there, put your arms wide, slow the guy down a little bit, know where your help defenders are, know where to rotate when you get beat. And they did that for the majority of the time. And Poole was, again, bad, but he was as bad as I expected defensively. The fact that they could not get him going, generate quality shots for him on offense, was really the issue. That's a reason to have the guy out there. If he's not functioning at a high level and able to cover you and generate some offense as when Steph is not on the court, burying the lead a little bit. I like Steph a lot tonight. I think Steph is on the court. I'm for 41 and a half minutes. I think they significantly impact his minutes. Both Kerr and Steph made allusions to his playing time and adjusting as necessary. We have seen that time out of them. If they go down 0-2 at home, they're not dead, but they're pretty fucking close. So this is a huge game for them. I see a couple places have projections on Steph that I don't think are as high as they should be as far as minutes. I will check a couple of the places I was just looking at, but it doesn't matter.
You can look at my sheet. I have 38.
I have 41 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
Which is really relevant. I mean, it's whatever, 7% or something, but it's I like the Steph overs today. If you are looking to bet, I like being over on him. He's my favorite captain right now.
You have the Warriors winning tonight?
I do.
Yeah, same.
I don't think you can, except massively overreacting to the first game. I don't.
Yeah.
you can justify being, that they are not a favorite tonight. So as much as I know y'all like being super overreacting to, one game, we like being reactive. But I'm looking at 38. You have 38. This place has 39. I'll put a bet on the board if you want right now that he plays 40 minutes. That Stephen Curry is on the court 40 minutes. I'll even give you the blowout outs. Just straight board bet. Steph sees 40.0 minutes. You had 38 written down 30 seconds ago.
I know.
Help a guy out.
I'm trying. Yeah. Okay, I'll take it. I know. Yeah. I'll take it.
Okay, get on the board. And maybe that's I don't know if I would bet on that, but it's close. I think there's close to a 50%, there's a real chance. 41.5 is probably a little high as a minutes projection because the ceiling isn't much more than like 43, and floors come into play with blowouts and various other things. But Steph, so we can start talking there for a little bit. Steph obviously had a sublime first quarter, set all kinds of records, finals records, rather. But 6 of 7 from 3 in the first quarter, I think 21 total points, and an amazing first quarter, and a kind of pedestrian rest of the game. And Boston, to their credit, I think, really didn't change up their defense after that. They had some defense. They were not ready in that first quarter. I don't know what it was, and they deserve a lot of credit for getting ready after that. But they lost him. Like, of those 7 threes, like 3 of them were open. A couple of them they just lost. Like, they'd get out in transition and no one would cover Steph. That's not the guy you can leave behind. If a guy doesn't get on, now they appropriately, in another conversation here, is they appropriately don't let Clay ever get open. Which is interesting. Clay is not as dangerous as Steph Curry, but he is one of the players in the NBA who has the greatest differential of point scoring when open versus not open. He does not deal very well with intense pressure, especially at his greater age and injury status. He just doesn't have the explosivity that he used to. Explosivo. Yeah.
The name of the song.
That's the name of the song. They just don't leave him open, which I don't hate, but occasionally it's a problem when you then let Steph open. That's not going to go really well for you. He was the straw that stirs the drink. And I think they,
Otto Porter is in. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that was I had gotten a good lean that way. I'm surprised that wasn't official previously, but yeah, that would have been really weird, especially with Iggy out, if they decided to make that particular change. So Steph was very good, and I'm surprised they don't let him play more. I don't see him getting tired as the game goes on. Basically, the only guy on the Warriors was interesting. I was saying I think the Warriors can play more. The Celtics keep playing guys 40 minutes, and the Warriors keep playing guys 30 whatever minutes. And we didn't really get that out of the Celtics in the game first, where Marcus Smart didn't look or feel great, apparently. And we were getting great minutes out of both Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, who I said I thought would get real run in this game. It was apparently in the nuts on FanDuel. I don't like him today, for reference. And again, it's just an ownership swap. I think the ownership comes up, and I now think Smart, with a couple more days or less, is likely to play more than 30 minutes. And you could check me on this, but I don't think Smart and Pritchard are ever on the court together. Literally ever. I don't know if they have spent a minute in the postseason. I've watched every Celtics game. I don't know if someone in the chat wants to have a good time. And
I can tell you here in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. I do not think Marcus Smart and Peyton Pritchard have been on the court next to each other in the postseason. So if you think Marcus Smart gets 40 minutes, that means Peyton Pritchard gets
10 minutes.
They've spent 10 minutes next to each other.
Yeah.
Okay. That is still obviously an incredibly small amount through.
Yeah, I mean, they've played how many playoff games?
7, 6, through 19 games. They've spent 10 minutes. So they've spent literally an average of a minute. So if you think Marcus Smart, it's really interesting that I can't remember that.
I'm gonna try to see if I can
get out of my head, Rivera, because that bothers me that I can't picture it. But
I'm gonna see if I can narrow the dates down and figure out what game it was.
Not important. That's my ego and bullshit. And as much fun as that is, we'll do it another time. But if you think Marcus Smart plays, and again, I'm not sure he will. I have him for 38. But if you think there's any chance Marcus Smart plays 41 minutes, which they will do, you are getting 6 minutes of Peyton Pritchard. So something. I shouldn't say it quite like that. There is some chance they run them out next day. One of the most telling stats was how good the single big Celtics lineups were. Mm-hmm. Horford without Williams or Williams without Horford were both very good. Both of them out there was not very good. It gave, in my opinion, the Warriors an easier time on both ends of the court. And if you look at some of the stats, looking at the time that you had Horford out there without Bob Williams or Bob Williams out there without Horford, the team was much more impressive. I copied over some stats on this. I cannot. That's the box and one. Smart covering Draymond was interesting. Sorry, I have just pages and pages of notes, and I don't know where I put this section. Okay, we'll look at my pregame notes here. So in the time with Al on the court and Bob on the bench, they had a 141 offensive rating and a 90 defensive rating for those 17 minutes. In the 9 minutes with Bob on the court and no Al, they had 130 offensive rating and an 89 defensive rating. In the time they spent on the court together, which was, I think, about 16 and a half minutes. So again, net rating is the differential between your offensive rating and your defensive rating. So when it was just Al, they had a differential of 50. And when it was just Bob, they had a differential of 43. And when they were both on the court, it was negative 33. Like, the team played massively worse when they ran both bigs out there, which kind of makes sense. You don't need it. Who are you defending up against there? You have Draymond and Kevon Looney are not going to be dropping massive buckets on you. And neither of these teams shot at all in the paint. If you look at percentage shots taken in the paint, was none. They both took between, I think it's 12 and 14% of their shots in the paint anywhere near the basket. All threes, all jump shots. I think the Warriors took more than half their shots were three by a couple. I want to say it was 45 out of 88 shots were from three. The Celtics, I think, just a little bit less than that. But unsurprisingly, stacking the shit out of the paint and running two centers did not work for the Celtics. And it leads to some interesting decisions here. One is I really might max one Horford and Bob Williams as a minimal preclusion here. Obviously not impossible. They both get there, especially with Bob Williams' ability to put up huge amounts of points in limited time. So even if they only share they shared the court in that last game for 16 minutes. Let's say they share the court in this game for 10 minutes. So they collectively play 58 minutes of the game, and now let's say Horford gets 36 and Bob Williams gets 22. They can both absolutely the hell get there in those periods of time, but their productivity is negatively correlated for both of them when the other one is on the court. And I think there's a real chance the minutes get pretty limited here. And again, Bob Williams has one quasi effed up knee. It's interesting listening to all the coverage and listening to the announcers and then listening to Hollinger and Duncan and Birch and all the various podcasts I listen to, the incredibly diverse opinions on how Robert Williams played. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I've heard like a 2, a 3, a 4, a 7, an 8, and a 9. Like, no one was like he had an okay game. Everyone was either like he was incredible and did an amazing job of walling off the rim, which is true, or couldn't get a lot going and had trouble reacting to switches. I ended up being kind of in the middle there. Again, I thought he was a pivotal piece here, but it falls back into the fact that I like this Celtics team a lot because there are no bad switches. There are no amazing matchups you can pull out against them. There's, other than Peyton Pritchard, which I think it would be fair to criticize the Warriors for not focusing on him more. Like, they only targeted him 3 times that I can remember. And once was Iggy posting him up. Another time was Clay tried to take him, and neither of those worked. And I feel like there was a third one that I can't specifically recall. But letting Pritchard play that long and have a very nice, I forget his box score, but he was definitely positive. Like, in his time on the court, they looked He played 16 minutes and was a plus 14. So I mean, in the non-Peyton Pritchard minutes, the Celtics lost by 2. Now, a lot of this is small sample size. Like, you're just dealing with the fact that I don't want to overstate how much of a win this was. Again, the Warriors were winning most of this game. And in the fourth quarter, the Celtics just refused to miss, more or less. And then, like, they screwed up the defense a number of ways. Like, Al was just too open. Al was just too open. There were just a number of times. And then and they beat the shit out of Jordan Poole. If you ever get bored one of these days, go watch the fourth quarter of that game. Watch the whole game if you want. And just watch Jordan Poole. When he's on the court, like, him not being able to handle something is directly related to 70% of the Celtics baskets. He blows a cover. He just gets blown by Jaylen Brown or whomever. It's a problem. So, like, the best way for the Warriors to win this game is play more Kevon Looney, play a little less Jordan Poole. I don't think, especially with Iggy out, they can play that little Jordan Poole. I have him at 24 minutes. I'm taking away a minute. They kind of don't have the dudes. Could they play him? I've heard people say they think he might get under 20 minutes. That would really surprise me. I don't know if I'd prefer it. And obviously, I'm very critical of the guy, which is kind of unfair. He's young. He's got an outstanding offensive game. And I legitimately feel sorry for him. The pressure is insane. And he's out there and, like, he's against the best defensive team in the world. And they're hunting him. So he goes back on defense and they're coming after him. They didn't hunt him as much as I think they could have, but they're hunting him. And so, like, you're letting the team down, and that sucks. And then what you normally do is you go back and get more buckets. They're not letting him do that. He played 25 minutes, only got up 7 shots, only made 2 shots. That's a shit ton of pressure for a kid. So, like, personally, I have a lot of sympathy for the guy. But I don't, like, the best lineup of this team by far for the Warriors had to be the starters. I haven't looked it up extensively and broken it down that way. But their significant bench players did not. I mean, they're Iggy was only a -6. Iggy, I realize I'm just going on a monologue here, but I'm just talking about various things I noticed from me watching the game this morning.
Sure.
Iggy did not look great. He could not stay in front of guys. He got blown by a couple times. That's a real issue. He's still very cagey, still a veteran, gets in the right place, rotates smart, does the right thing, makes his open shots, took 4 shots, made 3 of them.
Yeah. And he was active off the ball. He was cutting, when they had him and Dre out there, and that's really not great for your spacing. He was cutting into the open space in the lane, and that was good. Kind of kept him in it while that lineup was out there.
Yeah. So kind of irrelevant, but he was worse than I thought he would be. It's a little belied by he made 3 of his 4 shots, and he was not as negative as either Porter or Poole. Porter wasn't great. Had a horrific plus-minus, but a lot of that has to do with being out there for a lot of the fourth quarter when they got stomped, and being out there with Poole for a lot of the game. Both of those are going to weigh down on your plus-minus a little bit. But I'm fine going back to Porter. He's going to correlate negatively with Poole. A couple other things. Wiggins was interesting. Had a very quiet, efficient game. He was 8 of 15 from the field, made more than half of his shots, had 20 points, really went unheralded. Ended up on Bob Williams actually a lot, which was kind of interesting. They had him guarding Robert Williams for a lot of the game, which was really interesting to see them run that out that way. I don't know if it was necessarily right, because they spent a lot of time with Clay trying to guard Jaylen Brown, and he looked not good for most of the game, but tolerable. And it's evidenced by the fact that Jaylen Brown wasn't doing that much before the fourth quarter. But as you got towards the end of the game and Clay got a little more tired, like, Clay led this team in minutes. That's probably not the way it should go. And by the end, he was noticeably, like, Jaylen Brown was getting him on both ends of the court. He was reasonably efficient, didn't take a ton of shots, but Jaylen Brown was working Klay Thompson. It was a mismatch on both ends of the court. So that's another issue that they're going to have to look to deal with. There's not a ton you can do there, but I would think there's a chance that they change their defense significantly to start with Wiggins on Brown, which isn't really what they were doing. He had a fair amount of Tatum, but I would I definitely consider it because it did not look good at all in that fourth quarter. Maybe they shifted halfway through the game or something. Again, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a couple people that were asking us just specifically to give a little bit of time and talk about Grant Williams and how we see him on the slate. Obviously, the time came way down from
again, that's exactly what I said. You don't. So basically, Grant Williams comes down to this: you don't need his muscle. So he was great for Butler, Giannis, those guys. And I'm quoting myself from the first show. He is out there to muscle up those guys and be able to switch onto some guards. The issue is he cannot switch onto Steph. And once you can't switch onto Steph, and there were a couple times they tried and it did not go well, you don't work out there. Like if you can't switch onto Steph, that's a real issue when 4 other guys out on the court can. And you're not as good offensively. Like you should just turn into more minutes of Derek White or even Peyton Pritchard or, even Robert Williams at that point, who is about as effective switching on to Steph and does other things that are good for the team. So it is not a great spot for him. And I said exactly that before the first game. So not surprised. I do not expect a bounce. There's no one for him to guard. He is good at guarding muscular guys who are going to work you out and go towards the basket. Who is that on this team?
Mm-hmm.
Clay doesn't get at the basket that much, and you can guard him with any of the other guys on the team who are just a little better on offense and do other stuff for you. And he's not that thick, so you don't need Grant Williams' body type out there. He can't guard Steph, and you don't really need him on Wiggins. Like, he wouldn't be bad on any of those guys. I'm not saying Grant Williams wouldn't play, but he is worse than their other bench options. He is. So that was really kind of what I expected out of Grant Williams and what we got. There's just not the guy there for him. He's fine. Like if you say I want to play Grant Williams tonight, obviously going to be low owned. Didn't play much at all, but I had him for 17 minutes the first game. I have him for 17 minutes tonight. I think he continues to lose time in this matchup, whether it's to, Pritchard or Derek White getting to 34 minutes is a real possibility. Like in this matchup, Derek White is just a strictly superior player.
Yeah. So I speaking about Grant and kind of in that price range, like Otto Porter is $400 more expensive. And I said in the Discord before we went live, and then Herm and I were just going back and forth about it as well. I don't think if I'm running my 20 lineups tonight, I would have any exposure to anybody cheaper than Otto Porter. I think you can make massively.
Who are we specifically excluding when you say that? Because I don't.
So that would be Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard, Tice, the Mitten, Moses Moody, Kuminga, if you wanted to include him in there, as guys who could pick up some time. Damian Lee, by the way, really the only 1K guy that I think you should take shots on if you're running 150.
Yeah, I mean we're taking Iguodala out now. I think the most likely scenario is very similar rotations to last game, and Gary Payton gets Iguodala's minutes. I think you may get Mooby Booby.
Yeah.
You may get Damian Lee. You could get any of those bench guys. And I don't have a strong preference. I will slightly lean to Bielitsa actually, but if you want to put a guy out there a little bigger, get a couple more rebounds, have better offensive punch than Looney, who is really Looney, by the way, 6 offensive rebounds. Such a good rebounder. He's not Andre Drummond, but that boy can rebound.
Half of their offensive rebounds last game, right? They only had 12.
I think that's about the count. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the stats in this game, this was a pretty even game. Warriors led at the beginning, Celtics took it away at the end. But if you look at, if you ignore the shooting, which you can't ignore the shooting, but like rebounds 32-27, assists we're pretty big for the Celtics, and that had a lot to do it. And we'll talk about Tatum in a second because I think that's something it is. But 33-24 on the assist, but steals 7-8, blocks 6-6, turnovers 12-14, fouls 13-16. Like it was a pretty even game, and then you just ended up with the fact that, especially in that fourth quarter when the Warriors went down and they ended up shooting 50% from the field and 50% from 3, and that was the difference in this game. But to that point, one of the more even games. That was a really exciting game for me. This was back and forth and lots of really nice chess. Again, I think Kerr was a little too cute playing Iguodala. I understand. I don't know if I could have done any better in that position. Like, it's really hard to be like, we're not going to play you. And if you're not, like, I think you play him too much. I think you should have played 5 minutes in a shift. He gets to play, and you're like, there's several more games to come. So I would argue that was an error, but whatever. Running some really unique defenses out there. I don't think I have the best salient understanding of exactly what that gains you. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're like, it's hard for me to compute exactly how much you're getting by confusing the Celtics as they bring it up every time. Mm-hmm. Like, Smart is a limited point guard. So your theory is, I think, we're going to really focus up on their ISO guys. I'm not going to let Tatum beat us. I'm not going to let Brown beat us. And I'm going to throw enough weird-ass defensive looks at the rest of the team where they don't know quite what's going on. And that's how we're going to get through the end. So you get the 1-3-5 and a box and 1 and a box wide and a 2-3. And there were just literally 9 different defensive configurations I saw. Mm-hmm. Is interesting, but I still think like towards the end of the game, they were just missing stuff. They were just a step slow on a lot of things where that was all it took. And again, Jaylen Brown deserves a lot of it. Speaking of which, buried the lead a little bit. Jason Tatum really looked good, which is something you don't get to say about someone who shoots 3 of 17 and 1 of 5.
Yeah,
he shot whatever. 3 of 17 is 18% from the field, and 1 of 5 is 20% from 3. And I thought he had a really good game. He had 13 dimes, which I think maybe a career high, regular or postseason. He had 2 turnovers.
Yeah,
2 for a non-point guard to have 13 dimes and 2 turnovers. And honestly, you can, if you want to talk about why this Celtics team is great, whereas not a year or 2 or 3 before, it's how much both Brown and Tatum have grown into playmakers, guys who know how and when to distribute the ball, move away from the ball, and work within an offense, as opposed to being just guys who are out there getting buckets and scoring, which they could always do in different ways. They've both taken a step up as a defender, so now you have a defense with no real holes in it. Like, nothing the Warriors do is like, oh shit, we're hopeless. With the like, if they get Pritchard out there and some of that shit happens, but like, even a couple times, like Horford got alone on Steph once, handled it pretty well. Like, there's just no real weak spots on defense, and offensively, they're a really, really complete team at this point. I mean, against a very good Warriors defense, and with whatever their foibles and faults are, they made half of their shots against them. That's really goddamn impressive. I would pick under that tonight. I do think it was an exemplary performance. I like an under bet tonight when I look at it. I think teams will adjust a little bit here, but So there is a question. What do I think about Tatum tonight? I've been asked a few times.
Yep.
I mean, I will give you my projection, which right now sits at Jason Tatum with the same 41.5 minutes as Steph Curry, 1 more fantasy point, where I have Steph Curry scoring 51 3/4, and I have Jason Tatum scoring 52 3/4. So as far as ownership goes, I think he's still a little higher, though this varies a little bit based on price and whatever. I think he is nominally cheaper on DK. So I think I still prefer Steph as a play, but I'm splitting hairs. But based on the fact that I think Tatum will be higher owned than Steph, and I think Golden State's best path to victory is upping Steph's minutes and letting him just try to do more and be all-world 2015, 2016, 2017 Steph, which is a hell of a request. But he juked a couple guys out of their shorts. He juked a couple really good guys out of their shorts. Like, he dropped Marcus Smart once. He dropped Jaylen Brown once. Like, it was, he looked remarkable for portions of that game. And again, the only way that they should be able to beat them is going to require a bravura performance out of Steph Curry, and they really need to win this game. So I'm fine if you think it's going to be a Clay day. I don't think he has the ability. Like, I think they can just choose not to let Clay score. And again, we saw teams that are well worse than the Warriors defensively just choose not to let Clay go. Like you just saw the Mavericks just said, yeah, we're just not going to let Klay Thompson beat us. And he doesn't have much say in the goddamn matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they yield that, especially with how it worked. And so now, Steph just has to do so much for this team to win. And I generally think he can't. So I think he ends up being a little too under-owned. I'm curious where you think he ends up being as far as like ownership for Steph Curry. Or let's talk about ownership for a little bit, where we think guys are and who's going to be a little over-owned or under-owned here. I think Tatum is more owned than Steph as the high-owned captains. What say you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on Tatum being higher owned in the captain and obviously the utility as well. But I think it could be a little bit closer than it was last game. Which I think it was
last game somebody sent me, and I will pull it up and I will give the exact numbers of what they were. I don't think this has captain in it, unfortunately, but I think I recall it from our discussion that it was like 20. So last game it was 78 Tatum, 68 Curry. And by the way, shout out for the DFS sites. I'm looking at 2 DFS sites behind the paywall. Oh, I can get a third one. I'm looking at 3 DFS sites behind the paywall. Here is the ownership, respectively, on Tatum and Curry on the 3 sites. People are paying for this. 38% and 25%.
Wait.
38% Tatum, 25% Curry.
Like overall?
Overall ownership, total ownership. Certainly not captain. I'm looking at the column and it adds up to several 100%.
Yeah.
Seriously, this is behind the paywall. This is amazing to me. Clay 60, Draymond 78. Excellent product. Then this one, let's see, we got Tatum 56, Steph 52. That's less unreasonable, but again, we just had 78, 68. I don't know why you think they're going to fall respectively 23 and 18%. I do think they collectively add up to a little less because there's slightly less value available. But anyhow, I think Tatum will still be owned more than Steph by actually a roughly similar distribution.
What do you think about? We've had a couple questions about Gary Payton and what we think his ownership is going to end up at. My answer was I would be really, really surprised if it was over 20%. I think it's probably in the 12 to 15 range because I think people are going to see Coach Kerr saying, I expect to get him in the rotation tonight, and that people are going to roll him out there, but not at any sort of high clip.
Yeah, he's I don't want any. I understand wanting to find a low-owned guy who can get some time and get some whatever. I currently have, I think, 9 or 12 minutes or something, but it almost doesn't matter. Again, his arm is the matchup's as bad as it can get. He's going to be out there with several players. He's going to be the worst. He's going to be the number 4, number 5 option on offense. He gets all his points on threes, which he apparently cannot shoot without being impinged, and turnovers, which the Celtics don't throw out. Like Warriors had 6 steals in the first game, 6 or 7, I think it was. I don't you're really doing now. Could he end up? Actually, they had 8.
Yeah,
he could end up, but you understand my point. That's like how many of those would you project if let's say they give up 8 again, and I would take the under on that. I think I'd project the Celtics for something like, or the Warriors collectively as a team for less than 8. I think it'd be like 6.5. I'd have to look it up, but. Yeah, he might get 1. He might get 2. Let's assume you get really okay, now he's got 2 steals. He's going to it's sort of the same thing as so if he is the exact floor, that opens up some playoff. It totally depends on price and whatever. But as far as I think he's going to have a productive DFS night. No, I have him for 8 minutes and 6.5 fantasy points. If that works and he is the best option at that price for you, yeah, by all means. But he is. Everyone is above a floor there. I think Bielitsa first. Bielitsa, by the way, the most fantasy points per minute in the series right now. Nemanja Bielitsa. He played 45 seconds and got a 3-pointer rebound. So that's like 7 fantasy points a minute, or 5.5, 6 fantasy points a minute. So Nemanja Bielitsa, no. I don't love any of those guys in one lineup. I don't think I'm going there, but on your mini price there, yeah, I think it's Bielitsa for me, who is my micro guy again today.
Doomy was asking us who projects higher, Wiggins or Clay. I have Clay for 1.5 more fantasy points tonight.
That sounds like very close to what I have. I have Wiggins for 31 3/4 and Clay for 33 3/4. Same thing I had him before game 1, which feels. I have Clay projected slightly higher. He will probably be owned again pretty similarly. Last slate, they were, amusingly enough, Clay outscored Wiggins by a half a fantasy point last slate at 4% less owned, 46 1/4 to 42 3/4%. So, yep, pretty much coin flippy there. I'm probably going to take Wiggins again. The ownership will be pretty similar. And I like it a little more. And they could just force him into more actions. Like there were a couple times they tried to run him at Bob Williams to tire. Are we a minute and a half from lock?
We are.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I got like 80 things I wanted to talk about. The PTSD lineup was bullshit. How
do you feel about Draymond tonight?
About the same. I like him again in the series. I like he will again be very significantly owned. He was almost exactly 50% last time. That is a pretty good ownership percentage for him.
He would be a top 3 captain option for me in MME.
Yeah, he had a very compelling game. I had him in the captain.
Makes a couple shots. He has a really good game.
Yeah, he was 2 for 8 and was like
2 for 12.
Yeah, he was dreadful. Yeah, I remember him thinking threes where he was 0 for 4 or something, but it was just a fugly game out of him. Like
fouled out at the end as well, right?
Yeah. No, not his best work by any means. So
yeah, we are under a minute here. Actually, 30 seconds.
Nice
until lock. So appreciate everybody tuning in as always. We had a 6-game W slate today, Eddie.
How'd it go? Is it still on?
I think the games are winding down right now. The last 4 of them tipped off 2 hours ago to the minute. So those are winding down, and I'm hoping that we'll see some FTN logos up top. I'm looking in the Discord now, the WNBA channel. Tyreek sitting in 3rd.
Nice. We do dominate. The W.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, man, adding Walt to the team has been just.
I hear good things.
Yes, for the niche sports there. So we are at lock now. So before you run away and go watch the game, if you could, if you haven't yet, hit that like button. Helps us grow the channel. Still trying to get to that 5K number, Eddie. We're under 100 subs.
I should probably follow the channel then, you're saying.
Yeah, you can help out. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you want to know when FTN goes live. And so hopefully all you on your way out to watch the game do that. And if you're going to hang out and play a little ownership game with us, over the next 10, 15 minutes, you can do so as well. Let me pull up the live contest here. It was actually interesting. We had the main tournament there on DraftKings fill at least 90 minutes before lock. So we were discussing if they would run another milli. I believe it was 1.25 with 250 up top. And that filled well early. So
good.
Left a little on the table there with the big contest.
You and 58 of your closest friends can split. I was going to say 250K. But usually end up splitting like 500K because you get second place prize and everything else poured in there. But
I've got the ownership up if you're ready to have a go here.
Jason Tatum
number 2.
Steph Curry
number 1.
Really?
Yeah. Indeed.
How far from each other?
72.1 for Tatum, even 75% for Steph.
Yeah. So if you're like, I'm just looking at those other ownerships, just cracked me up. I'm like, I don't understand. They were just 148% collectively owned, and apparently that went up to 150%, which is fine. How the fuck do you collectively project them for 60 and what was it on R? It was it doesn't matter. But, okay, interesting. I would love to pretend there's a huge difference between 65 and 75% owned, but interesting. 3rd place, I will say Jaylen Brown.
I believe you are going to be correct.
You can't download
it? Nope. Oh, I could get the utility, but I'm sticking on the site just so we can see captain ownerships as well. And for that matter, it was Steph barely getting on top of Tatum there as well, 22.8 to 22.4. Jalen is number 4.
Draymond?
No.
Wiggins?
Wiggo got in there.
They all have to be between like 45 and 55% on.
I think 3 and like 7 are really bunched up.
Yeah,
here.
You're gonna have Draymond, Brown, Wiggins, Horford, Clay.
Yep.
Maybe even Smart. A real question is how low Jordan Poole gets. Like Jordan
Poole,
I didn't talk about a lot because I'm pretty even on, but he might have gotten so low because again, not just me, everyone is slandering the shit out of him.
Yeah.
That's going to drive the ownership down. He was.
What's the number that would make you perk up?
20.
You got 24.8.
Yeah, that's about what I figured. That's about right. Much. Like at that number, it's like, yeah, that's about right. He was 38 or whatever, and fading him was my favorite play last time. But yeah, that's
2.6 in the captain spot there for Poole, and then back to Wiggins was 49.4% and 7.3 in the captain spot, and then you get to Jalen 46.3, 7.2 in the captain spot.
Still like that a lot. Like that's well less than he was. He was over 50 last time.
Clay 45, 9.3 in the captain. So Clay did pick up more captain ownership than any of these guys in this range.
Interesting. How much was Clay overall though? 30 something?
45.
45. So he actually went up a little bit in ownership as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Looking for a Horford. I know he's right in here. Yeah, 45.5 for Horford. 5.7 in the captain.
Yeah, that's fine. Like again, I do not expect them to like they have to do something. Like Horford, especially when he's open, is a really good shooter. Not just like postseason. Like Horford on open shots is like what is classified as an open shot, which is like no defender within 6 feet. I mean, he's still running and he's still whatever, but he's like I think he's 46, 48% under those situations in the second half of the year. Like, guys really shooting. They're going to make a correction there. So, I imagine I'd be a little under Horford, but obviously there's all the potential in the world. He looked amazing there.
People like the Derek White tonight, 41%, 3.1 in the captain spot. Gary Payton II, 18.7, and picked up 0.5% captain ownership there.
Yeah. Last time, by the way, 15% for Gary Payton, who did not touch the
Really?
ball. Yeah, he was 15% in the tournament I'm looking at, so that certainly did not hurt.
Otto 31.5, 1.7.
I'm waiting for the Marcus Smart number.
Yeah, let me find a Smart 37.4% with 5.6% in the captain spot.
Yeah,
Peyton Pritchard 12.5, 0.3 in the captain spot. Time Lord 12%. 0.9% in the captain spot. Looney 18%, 2% in the captain spot. I think we're winding down here on.
Yeah, I will say I am a little disappointed that this is a game 2 in which there was not an incredible advantage. Usually something is kind of fucked up by people. None of these ownerships are wildly incorrect to me. I don't know what the worst is here.
Herm says Gary Payton is 30% owned in the 555, and he says he regrets withdrawing now.
Yeah, I would play no Gary Payton and max enter the fuck out of that thing at that point. Like there's just I don't know what like I would need to. I did my research and my ownership and my look around the industry and stuff today. I did not do like messing around with the build, so I don't have the greatest sense at the moment for exactly what you got opened by playing Gary Payton as opposed to another guy. But what do you like? What are people honestly? I don't know. Let me check a couple other sites for. Let's look at you could have paid to get these Gary Payton projections. Let's see what we have around the industry. 4 minutes and 3.2 fantasy points. I actually don't hate that. That's a reasonable projection to me. And again, a lot of
Andre Iguodala 1.2% dead money there, so we appreciate those.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I forgot to say at the start, but I was pretty sure some people were going to run that.
Tice 1.8 did get out there for his one rotation in the first half last game.
Gary Payton 8 minutes, 6 fantasy points on the site. That's very reasonable. Okay, so I stand corrected. Those are reasonable. I apologize. Other fantasy sites, your Gary Payton projections are just fine. That's about what it should be. So. That's a lot of Gary Payton, especially, I mean, not always, and this I think is an example to the contrary. Usually one of the great things that will help you grow as a DFS player besides looking back at when you go back and look at the game and see what worked and what you didn't do, that's actually much less instructive than going back and looking what people played, especially if you're getting started. The guys in the 555 will generally be better than you. Everyone likes to eat the rich and piss on the people with more money. It's our national pastime, basically. But generally, if you look at the ownership from the $1 to the $5 to the $20 to the $100 to the 555, you will find player trends, and usually you will see people play it right. So, for example, when there is something that obvious research brings about, we'll use, again, this example I've been using a lot recently, which would be Clay in the last series. You will see his ownership have steadily descended as the price to enter went up. It was just a smart way to fade if you did a little deeper research. So I am surprised and doubting myself a little that GP's ownership went up as you got into that tier. Now, it may not just be evaluating the player. It can be a greater mathematical precision and knowledge that getting to a value guy allows you to open lineups that they feel much better about. I also don't necessarily agree with that. I think this will be a pretty even-handed series as far as scoring. And like even the last game where you had the nut value guy, you got Andre Iguodala, who played 12 minutes at 1,000 and went out there and scored 12 fantasy points. He did not make the best possible lineup. He wasn't bad because you hit the nut outcome. But this is a series in which a lot of guys project to score 28 to 40 fantasy points. And so picking the sixth guy to give you 30 fantasy points is generally better than playing functionally a zero or very close to it. So it is odd to me that a solid mathematical analysis of tonight would lead to that amount of Gary Payton exposure, especially when he might not play. Like that is not out of play as a consideration here. So there is a 30% chance he does not touch the court, I would say. Maybe that's too high, but there is a real chance he does not touch the court. Call it 20%. Then there's like a 60% chance he scores 6 fantasy points or less, or something like that is how I would analyze it. Like a really, really, really limiting number. So now, I mean, it takes a very complicated situation, but if we reduced it all the way, it would be he's 30% owned. Is there a 30% chance you get an outcome out of him that you are happy with? I don't think there is. And I think there will be 5-6 other players who will give you an outcome you will be happy with in this game out of the other 13 fantasy relevant guys. So it is to me, that number just does strike me as too high. So I'm not surprised that Herm and I came to the same conclusion that really 30% Gary Payton. Our friend Josh saying he fully faded Curry in GPPs. I don't hate that. He at his current ownership, I think he's approximately appropriately owned. At any of the numbers everyone else published, I would have played 100% if somehow he was 30 or even like 50% owned. But you have only so many other options. And if you don't get a good game out of Curry, I think you have to kind of build for a blowout. Like if I'm playing no Steph Curry, I'm playing so many lineups that are optimized for a blowout because I think the Celtics just roll them. Because if the Warriors roll the Celtics, I want Steph Curry. He's going to have a pretty good game. If it's competitive, I again think Steph plays a lot of minutes tonight, and at anything near his, I would want some. So a full fade of Steph Curry for me would have me playing a shit ton of Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah. We're underway here. 5-3 in favor of the Celtics. Just over a minute gone. I had a Wiggins 3, a Jaylen Brown 3, Marcus Smart floater, Steph turnover. Clay just missed a 3. So getting up and down here early. Jaylen hit his second 3.
With Stephen splits versus Smart this year, I'm confused as to why you're so high on him besides minutes. Well, versus Smart is neither here nor there. He has not seen a preponderance of Smart versus White, Brown. Like he's seen a lot of guys and they're running a ton of switching action. So if I only take the players who are good against Boston, I'm not taking anybody on this fucking team. Like there's no one where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get these, I don't know, Draymond splits against the Celtics. So it's more just when you say so high on him, I'm not massively high on Steph Curry. I thought he would play more minutes than other people thought he would. When there aren't any other market inefficiencies, one of the places you can look is where people, I think, have an incorrect projection. based on him getting the extra day of rest, again, 2 days off, based on his comments and Steve Kerr's comments, based on his previous history, and based on how I read the game playing out, I think he probably plays more than 40 minutes here. And since no one else thinks he does, that is a market inefficiency. So if everyone else plays him normally with the other information, I think correctly gauging that means he plays more. And again, if I think he plays 41, 42 minutes, Marcus Smart played 30 minutes last game. Now, that may very well end up being more, and I have Marcus Smart playing well more than that this game, but Marcus Smart isn't 100%, and they do switch a ton, and I just don't know how else they win other than Steph threes and Steph dimes. Some combination of those two things. And that's a little bit simplistic, but yeah. If you have to fade Curry or Tatum on Gandweek, which I suppose to be FanDuel, that's a fascinating typo by Triple H there. Who would it be? Curry 15, Tatum 16. I don't know. Again, I would have to look at the other prices a little bit. If you're telling me I absolutely have to fade one, like fade from like.
Where are you reading this, Matt? Is this like
just like a decade ago, 30 minutes?
Oh, okay, I gotcha. I was looking for Triple H in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through. You have Dre, Tatum, and Steph, my 3 faves. Yeah, which feels a little silly because they're like literally 3 of the top 4 highest projected players. But it's a one game. What can you do? Al Hor PRA prop is 23.5. Any value there? I will tell you what I have Al Horford's because I did full stat projections today. I have, again, you can't bet this anymore. So if I say it's great, you're going to be like, thanks for that information. That would have been useful a half hour ago. I have Al Horford PRA for 23.8. So what was the line again?
23.5.
Okay. I have very, very slightly over. So no, not a lot of value there. Less than the rate. Who projects higher, Wiggins or Thompson? We did that on the show. Get some banks. Did you guys touch on Dre? I didn't touch. Generally, when I don't touch on a guy, it's because I have literally pages of notes here we didn't get into. Jaylen Brown for MVP, the minutes distribution there. They were 8 of 9 for 1 point, the 40-16 fourth quarter. They were running Wiggins at Bob a lot to try to tire him out. They're going to just have all these things here. They had a lot of time where they would put Smart, actually not on Steph, but on Draymond, because he does a fairly decent guy and he can guard big guys. He's guarded Giannis. He's guarded, like, Smart can do a decent job on Draymond. And he then, as arguably the best defender in the game, is an ideal switch guy, because if they want to run a switch, that's fine. You're fine with Smart on whatever guard, and almost anyone can guard Draymond because he's not that much of an offensive force. And so it allows Smart to both switch and help from that position really easily. So I have just like pages and pages of notes, but the reason I don't read it or any of the stuff I have on Draymond is because it's not consequential, and I think he's owned about right. So I'm saying he's over-owned, I'll explain why. If I'm saying he's under-owned, I'll explain why. If I think he's going to play extra minutes, I'll explain why. Draymond is the same Draymond before game 1. He's going to be owned 50%. That's about where he should be owned. I generally like him, but so I just didn't have a great point. CeeLo did the American Anthem and I missed it. Fuck.
And we're about 4.5 minutes in here, Eddie, and the Celtics started 5 for 5, have missed their last 5 shots, but they look like the much better team early on here.
They are the much better team. Like they're I don't know what to tell you. Like in a road series, I picked them. Much better is unfair, and I don't want to dismiss the Warriors because whatever. But they're just, you need, without, like, you cannot build a version of the Warriors that doesn't have a flaw, and the Celtics really don't have any. They don't turn the ball over. There are really 2 flaws on the Celtics. They do not rebound especially well, especially when Bob Williams is off the court. Mm-hmm. They don't offensive rebound much at all.
They don't handle the ball very well either.
They don't have elite ball handling, I'll give you that, and they don't get to the line much.
Sure. Which
are all real, but those are 3 relatively minor flaws that is otherwise exceptional and has stars and the best defensive team in the league. And the Warriors just have I either have to play Kevon Looney or Jordan Poole, so I'm going to have a problem on one end of the court. And those 3 Warriors rings came from them being really good on both ends of the court and just fucking amazing on one of them. Usually they were just amazing offensively. You were just like, hi, we have Steph and Kevin Durant and then Clay hanging around in case you try to double one of those guys or get beaten. Good fucking luck. And then the defense is still really, really solid. Yeah, that gets you there. Now, you turn Kevin Durant into Jordan Poole. That's a pretty noticeable difference here. So this is still a very, very good Warriors team. They deserve a ton of credit, but I mean,
they're pretty clearly the best Western Conference team right after the showing that Phoenix had against Dallas. Like the right team got out of the conference, I think.
It's hard for me to. I really liked that Phoenix team. I like the way they were built. I like what they were trying to do, and I liked again how their individual players all got better this year. I like the veteran presence of Paul and Jay. I liked all kinds of good stuff on that Phoenix team. I like how Ayton increased his game. Like every player on that team got better, including Chris Paul at age 64. So it's difficult for me to look at just the absolute 64. Bed shitting in games 6 and 7, especially.
Yeah.
And completely discount the team. But that is not a championship winning team that you can like. It's like sort of the same thing with the Nets. I still think, and again, that was the closest sweep series in the history of NBA basketball.
Yeah.
But
it's also, now that we're here in the finals, it always strikes me like when we're here in June and thinking like, man, it was April 17th and we were playing playoff basketball.
Yeah.
Playoffs are just, I love them, but they are long.
Why does Poole have a huge ass ice bag and wrap around his ankle before he's even played a minute? Did I miss an ankle turn game 1? I stepped on Steph's foot. Steph kicked his shoe off at one point. I don't remember seeing Poole hurt an ankle. I assume you saw it wrong. I mean, it may be a heat pack.
Yeah.
That's something I used to do, and I should probably do here at my age or something. But you will just put heat on stuff to loosen it up a little bit before you go.
Before practice every day.
I never did, but I know guys who did, and I probably should have.
Well, we're at the first media here. Celtics 16, Warriors 11. So back and forth. Celtics certainly cooled off after the 5-for-5 start, 1-for-8 since then. But already 2-0 boards and a +1 differential in favor of the Celtics in the turnover department. So more opportunities for Boston so far.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I will probably not be on the air for game 3. So I'm going to
go to the suite. Yeah, enjoy the game with our brethren, our coworkers there.
I may try to turn it on. Depends how loud it is. So
if you want to jump in.
Right. The White Sox are hosting the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And myself and I have no idea, 8-10 other FTN guys are going, and we have a suite. So I'm going to that game with the crew. We're gonna, so if it is not ridiculously loud, I'm going to jump in on Wednesday night. But I will be back Friday regardless. And
I think it's 5-dog and myself on Wednesday on the schedule. So
I'll be back Friday and Monday. I think we have a couple short breaks coming up. We had the 3 games and we had the 3 games, but I think it's Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. I think it's day off between games.
Friday, Monday, Thursday.
I thought it was Friday, Sunday.
Because then you would go Sunday to Thursday. Because Thursday we're traveling, but we're gonna try to do the game 6 stream.
That there too. You're killing me. I'm trying to work here, and I gotta all this basketball in my.
Yeah.
Let me.
Josh says when soccer. Well, the U.S. team played today, and I will see our boys in the red, white, and blue on Friday night, Eddie. And then Austin FC plays a friendly against Pachuca next Saturday. Who I believe
Wednesday, Friday. You had it right. It's Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Thursday. So you had it right.
Yeah, I believe
and Sunday again. So actually, the Wednesday to Friday is the only 1-day gap. It's the only time there's 1 day off is between.
Beast wants to know what our projected fantasy points are for the charity game.
I would think I will not start. I have no. Are there 5?
I can tell you now. I can tell you right now. You're not.
Okay. Are you starting?
Yeah.
That's a little bit egotistical. You're just coming out right now and telling me you're starting and I'm not. Jesus.
I was with our coach yesterday. I know the rotation.
Balls on this guy. You met with our coach yesterday?
Well, Ian is our player coach. So we went to meet the team thing for Austin FC yesterday. So we were walking in, discussing matchups, how we're going to play it, etc.
I love it. It depends. So I would say All right, I'm back. All right, now we got to have this conversation. Okay, how many players are on each team?
9.
Okay. How many of the 18 players in the game, or 17 that aren't you, or 16 that aren't you and me, or 15 that aren't you, me, and Ian, do you know or can identify in some physical statistic? Because I'm wondering, am I the biggest guy on the court? Am I the 8th biggest guy on the court?
That's the interesting thing is we actually we have a couple guys that are kind of the traditional centers for the game that we always split, and both of them are gone. So I do think that my old teammate Shaimik Johnson, who is on the opposing team, 6'7", one of the most talented players I've ever played with or against. I think he's going to be playing. It's going to be, I think, a kind of a 5-out type of game.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I think I should play. How long are halves, quarters?
So I actually we can do this on air. I mean, there's 17 people still with us, and if you're still with us, I think you have some interest in what Eddie and I are going to get ourselves into. I just see myself
spending $1,000 and flying to upstate New York to play 6 minutes of a basketball game, and I'm like, I don't know the value proposition here, but let's go.
4 10-minute quarters, running clock. At the 1 minute mark, quarters 1 through 3, the clock will stop on dead balls. And then at the 2 minute mark of the fourth, we're going to go to an elam ending. So add 8 to whoever is leading, and that is the target score. We've got officials from the Officials Association up there in Valencia. That's pretty much the rules there.
Sounds good. I would play if I was you and I wanted to win. I would, before seeing matchups and how everything is going, I would play me like 12 minutes. I would play me in 4 3-minute shifts or something like that. I think would be about what I would go.
Yeah. I mean,
it's full court. If it's half court, I would argue I could in theory play the entire game, but that's just sprinting up and down the court.
Yeah.
I can't do that for more than 3 or 5 minutes at a time without walking up and down the court, just calling it what it is. I don't want to do that in a game that's important. So
fantasy point, I would have to go back and try to figure out what my stat line last year. I did not shoot, or 2 years ago, I did not shoot well.
Gary Payton.
I was like 2 of 11 from 3 or something like that. But I was on the boards. I think I had 4 or 5 assists. Not a blocks guy, Eddie. Not a blocks guy. I'm not really a stocks guy at all. So
I'm a stocks guy. Like I would not. Yeah. I will. My stat lines will look a lot like Draymond's lines. Except I think I would.
That's how I described you. If
you told me I was going to play 12 minutes, I would say that I'll have more assists. I'll have more rebounds than assists than points.
Sure.
Probably in that order, and maybe a block. I don't get up as much as I used to, so like I don't bang my hand on the rim 5 times a game anymore. But
I'd imagine you can shoot the top of the key 3 a little bit better than Draymond.
Yes. Yeah. I made a few of those today. Shots coming around a little bit. I just want to be able to make them when I'm open, but. Yeah. It's odd for me. The hardest thing, believe it or not, are layups. I don't know what it is, but like 10, 12 feet, I've been ice, top of the key. I'm making like, I don't know, 30, 40% in a game, which is enough when I get left open. But randomly in traffic, I'm having trouble making a solid like left and right layup for reasons that I'm having trouble of. It's not terrible yet or something, but it's clearly I've got the yips or something. So I'm just... Today I was just like, I'll take it down in the paint, just banging people around and working on baby hooks and layups and shit. I'm taking it seriously though. I'm gonna we will get back to you. And
trust me, we are too. Like we're gonna. It's all fun. It's for charity, all that stuff. But there'll be at least like kind of like the NBA All-Star game, not talent wise, but like the intensity.
Yeah,
you get to that fourth quarter, it's gonna pick up.
Yeah, I'm just working on getting my wind back too, so that I can sprint my ass up and down the court.
For anybody that's interested, we are planning on streaming it. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I can set up like a YouTube account. I have my own StreamYard account, so we can stream it through there. Maybe put it on your channel. I don't know. We'll figure out something where the people who are so inclined can watch us hoop it up for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get and you and I are on the same team, so.
Indeed,
I don't know which dynamic I would have liked more.
Yeah,
I really don't know, because like backing your ass down sounds a lot of fun. Like just being like, you're too little, Zach.
I can tell you, I would be mad if you were on the other team. I'm matching your minutes every minute.
I guarantee that's what I'm. Oh man, so like that would have been kind of fun, but we can hopefully warm up a bit. What sucks is I want to play you. I can't really, because I don't want to do it before the game. I don't want to tire myself out or whatever the fuck. And after the game, we're gonna go like eat pizza.
We were talking yesterday about Thursday after the stream. Obviously the game's on, so I was like, we don't want to go get shots up or play threes or whatever during the game, and I just kind of sat there and thought, man, like I don't think I can play the day before because it will severely limit me the next day with how.
Oh, you can't. I'm not.
Yeah,
like I'm not. There's no.
I'll go get shots up, but
right, I would shoot, but I'm not like sprinting or something. For me, it's honestly just pain tolerance and like knee swelling and shit. If I play like I played an hour before today, my right knee right now is the size of a melon. It's a slight overreaction, and I had ice on it for 2 hours, but it's just that's what it is. I've surgically repaired the thing 4 or 5 times. You want to make the noises again? I can do it.
No, come on. All
right, so just like it's the thing is fuck, but it is functional. So if I preload some pain relief, and again, there's actually like a pharmacology aspect for me. It's how much pain relief can I take before I get high?
Yeah.
So like if I take a Percocet or a Vicodin, it doesn't work because I'm just too fucking loaded. I'm just walking around like, oh man, basketball. Like it just doesn't fucking work. So if I take usually like 6 hours before 4 ibuprofen and 2 Advil, an hour before 4 ibuprofen and 2 Advil, eat something, drink a lot. That is the level at which my pain doesn't bother me for an hour. And that's really what it comes down to. And I can bust my ass for that hour. Gonna fucking kill after that. But that's the point where it doesn't. And like I can play close to as well as I played, say, 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
I almost dunked again today. It was close.
There you go.
That's short rim, though. Short rim. It was a court at the high school where one of the rims was down a little bit. So it was probably like a 9-8 rim or something. Would have counted anyway.
B said, we better run pick and pop one time. Eddie set the screen, pop for 3. I guarantee you I will be doing that at least once.
Oh, I
think you'll have some.
You
nice,
will love playing with me. All I do is set screens and set a wide by. Like you will take so many shots looking at this. You are going to see my shoulders while you take a shot so much. Like literally, I cannot tell you how many people took shots today with me standing like this, with them standing right the hell here. I'm just fucking broad. So I'm just like, hello. And I just set a thing and someone shoots from right here. So I will set screens. I will occasionally roll. I will beat one guy to the basket. I played probably an hour and 45 minutes today. And I did not make an aggressive move for the first hour and 30 minutes. Like literally just hold the ball over people, dime, rebound, defense, dime, whatever the fuck. And then at one point, a guy has me on the 3-point line. And I jab step left a little, and he goes left and thinks I'm going to pass, and I just went in and took a layup. He's just like, hey, and I just 3-point line. I'm tall, 2 steps.
Yeah,
hit my hand on the rim, just like lay the ball in the rim. It's like that's kind of my goal. 5 or 6 dimes, one really nice one, some over the shoulder Magic Johnson bullshit. Yeah. Like I'm a couple decent defensive plays, not get cooked too much. Like, honestly, I would play. My honest answer would be this. I would play me every minute you can that there is someone slow enough for me to guard competently. Because if anyone out there who has like a motor on them anymore, I just can't.
I think there's less than half of us are wanting to get up and down or able to get up and down for the full game. We did just see Gary Payton on a break.
Yeah, I heard he got in there.
Missed the layup, missed both free throws, and then they freaking showed the injury 3 times in slow motion. Fucking stop!
Don't do that.
22-15 in favor of the Celtics here. 3.5 to go in the first.
17.
Warriors got behind
there. All the Warriors starters have gone. Draymond 4-2, 2-1. It's a pretty good start for Draymond in only 8 minutes. Wiggins 3-1, Looney 4-2, 1-1. It's been really good. Curry 4-2 1. Clay 2 points and a turnover. Gary Payton 2 minutes, no other stats. Jordan Poole 1 minute, no other stats. So yeah, Jaylen Brown, the man you wanted so far. 2 fouls though, fucking fouls. Oh, I can't stand the Gordon Hayward injury in the like I have had. Like, all right, so this scar. There's a lot of them. Let me show the sexy gams here. This one right here is where my tibia shot out.
Oh, fuck.
Right here. So that's the. So yeah, that's the only thing in life that makes me go, yeah. Like someone getting shot in the face mildly disturbing. But like a basketball injury where someone's like ankle turns the wrong way or the bone shoots out, I'm like, oh, I remember that. I remember that felt like it's still like I relive it every time. So yeah, every time I see the Paul George thing, I'm all like, yeah, remember that.
Yeah, my high school teammate, Kerry Hyder, who's actually like a 9-year NFL veteran at this point.
Good on him.
Was a linebacker in high school, just a monster. Could have played both in college if he wanted to. Saw him like kind of do like high load his leg, or two defender or offensive players leg fucking snapped in half.
You're just like, oh yeah. Anytime it turns the way it's not supposed to is still a yeah. Every fucking martial arts movie where the guy holds the guy's arm out and then like turns it over and then like gives him the the drop the elbow on it, shatter it. Yeah, that still gives me whirlies. When did Looney get so big? It's a small matchup.
Yeah.
Like there are not a lot of big guys. Like Al and Looney and Bob Williams are none of these guys are Andre Drummond or Joel Embiid out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my wife, who is in Hawaii, our daughter,
very nice,
just sent me a picture of her breasts.
Very nice.
They're holding in. They're looking pretty good. Anyone want? No, there's the women there. No, they're gonna.
That's wonderful.
Permission to say, she's a good woman and thorough. May you all have the luck that I've had.
Yeah,
and such things.
Well,
my wife, she is number 4 prostitute in all Kazakhstan. That's not all right. No. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna make something very clear here.
Okay.
Josh just put a GIF in the chat of Borat Kazadev, or however those last names said. Sagdiev, thank you. I think I converted Kazakhstan and Sagdiev and said Kazadiev or whatever. But anyhow, and it's got my wife at the bottom of it. That is not his wife. That is his sister, and he does not say my wife in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
This is my sister. She's number 4 prostitute in all Kazakhstan, and he like kisses her on the mouth and walks away. He does not like the one scene in the movie where he does not say my wife. And, so yeah, I didn't think Clay would be this bad in this series. Like I thought it was a better matchup for him. And again, we are 1/8 games into the series, but he's definitely struggling. All right, I want to go watch the game. Let's go watch the game.
Same here. We appreciate everybody, especially the 14 of you still sticking with us, the diehards here on the Live with Fast Eddie Fear show. Adam Pfeiffer and myself back on Wednesday. Maybe a Pokemon appearance from Eddie from the suite, but we'll see. Eddie and I will be back together. What would that be? Friday, right? For game 4. Programming note for that. We will go, I believe, at 7:30 Eastern, 9 p.m. tip. I'm going to that U.S. game, Eddie. So we'll do a full hour, but I got to get out of there and get down to the queue.
It's the finals. Unlikely anything massive happens in the half hour before the game. So I will accept that. All right. I have high standards. I will take that this one time. If this was like a Wednesday during the season, I'd be like, it defeats the whole purpose of the fucking thing. Just go to the game. I'll do it by myself. But finals, that's fine.
We appreciate everybody once again. We'll see you on Wednesday. Good luck tonight. For Eddie, I'm Zach. I already said good luck, but we wish you good luck again. As always, everybody.
Let's get these beans.